Is also to Forex robot makers. I would like to introduce to you our latest product. We call it the 1 to 3 Trendline Breakout indicator. Before we continue, I would like to give you a background of the trade setup of the indicator. The indicator is 100% non-repeat low-risk breakout system. The trade setups are found around swing high and swing low, which means you can target a high profit for a very low risk. Let's look at an example here. For this setup, we can see the stop loss, barely 12.6 pips. The profit, over 49 pips. That's how awesome this setup can be sometimes. Now, the 1 to 3 trendline pattern occurs in every market, and it is formed by supply and demand. This means you don't have to trade only on Forex with it. You can also trade commodities and stocks with it. Now, let's look at the pattern formation. Now we have 3 points and a neck. Let's look at this pattern, for example. Okay, let me bring up the zigzag to see this pattern better. Now, when you look at the zigzag, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 points forming the pattern. These points 1, 2, 3. They are the 3 major points of the pattern. This particular point here is called the neck of the pattern. I'll put that up. Yeah, the pattern neck. This particular point here is called the pattern neck. And as you can see here, we see the trend line is actually formed by the point 1 and the pattern neck. So basically the trend line runs from point 1 through the pattern neck, and it continues. Yeah, that's it. This is the trend line. Now what we look at is we look at for the candle that eventually breaks out this trend line that is formed by the first point and the neck. Now when you look at the chart, this candle actually made the breakout. This candle made the breakout, and you can see the arrow. The arrow goes forth. So that's how the pattern is formed. So that's just a look at how the setup occurs in the market. Now, when there is a breakout of this trend line, it usually means a shift in the supply and demand. So the pattern just goes with the market flow, all right? So you don't want to trade against the trend. You want to trade where the traders are going to. So that's how this pattern kind of work. So for us to get a better idea of how effective this indicator can be, let's look at some indicators that are formed on this chart, and we'll look at different charts. The good thing about this indicator is that it's not limited to any time frame. You can trade it on different time frames, which means it works for both daily trading and long-term trading. If you are a day trader, it's perfect for you. If you are a long-term trader, it's also perfect for you. And the good thing about this pattern is, yeah, though sometimes you might get a false breakout sometimes, but the good thing about it is that the risk is usually minimal. It's usually very low compared to your profit. So if you get a fake pattern at one point, you might probably recover it in the next. Let's look at some pattern forms on this chart. Now we'll look at this, another successful pattern. We'll look at this, wow, another successful pattern. Now we'll look at this is a false pattern. Sometimes I will advise not to trade at the beginning of the week. You can see this gap. This is the beginning of the week. When the pattern forms at the beginning of the week like this, it's usually advisable not to trade it because the market is undecisive at that particular point. But when we look at this, we look at the risk. So 18 pips, 181 points, that's 18 pips. So you are basically losing 18 pips here. Now look at the next pattern. So 88 pips, over 88 pips. So 18 pips, you are gaining 88 pips here. So that's the beauty of the pattern. Even when you lose in one pattern, you can probably make it up in the next. Let's look at some other patterns here. There's another one, profitable. So I want to lecture you on how you can effectively use this pattern now. How do you effectively use it? The best way we are seeing to use this pattern is to always close your profit partially. Let's look at this setup, for example. The risk here is about 31 pips. So what we're saying is, if you want to use this indicator, it's less risky to close your profit when it is about 31 pips in profit. You close your profit partially. So the risk to reward ratio should be 1-to-1 when you want to close partially. Let's put it up, yeah. Close trades partially at 1 ratio 1 risk reward. Okay, so that's it. You close the trade partially at a risk to reward of 1:1. Then you can ride the whole trend all the way down here. So that's for how to use the pattern. Now I'm going to show you some patterns you shouldn't consider in trading. Now look at this pattern, for example. When you look at a trend line, this particular point already broke the trend line before we have the signal here. This pattern is a false pattern. You shouldn't trade such patterns. Whenever you see a candle close below the trend line for a sell setup before you get the signal, it's a no pattern. You shouldn't trade it. It's a fake pattern. And for buy setup, it's the other way around. When you get a candle closing above the trend line before you get the signal, that's a false pattern. You shouldn't trade it. Let's look at some other examples. Yeah, here for example, though it was profitable, but it would have been advisable to trade this pattern because you already have the buy candlesticks closing above the pattern before you got the main signal here. So it would have been advisable to trade this pattern. Let's look at here. You see? So what I'm talking about? This candle's already closed above the trend line before you got the signal here, and look, it went directly into a loss, but not too bad. So let's look at the chart and see how profitable these patterns are. Profitable, profitable, also profitable all the way down here, profitable all the way down here, profits, 49 pips profit, 41 pips profits, 44 pips profits, 86 pips profits, 66 pips profits. Yeah, that's all for now. Good day.